Hey there, this is Andy Grider, and I am the host and producer of Unique This Week. It's a production of Uniqueness is Power, and we are really excited to have with us another powerhouse guest. John Casson is one of those people that when you get to know him, you just absolutely fall in love with the guy. He's got a heck of a resume. He's been managing director of GE's capital IT business in Europe. He set up the international side of things for P-Tech's group of companies, and P-Tech were the original investment group behind WebMD. With the tech team from WebMD, he did it, and he also invented from there account aggregation that ran Yahoo Money. And now we're looking at something new, and it's RxSpark and Igniter. It's a combination effort to help combat the high prescription prices and essential medical goods, durable medical equipment costs in the US. It also helps combat another big problem with, I think it's 3 or 4 billion prescriptions that aren't picked up. John's joining us with Spain. He's building an empire here. John, welcome first and foremost. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, hey, it's absolutely our pleasure. We're very, very lucky and honored to have you here. Um, I wanted to kind of get in here and we just recently featured another guest that was in a very crowded marketplace and has done some really great things to help distinguish themselves from the masses, and that was Amy McNally and her father Mark with Hydrate. If you folks remember, that was the folks that are selling bottled water, artesian bottled water to help benefit veterans. Now, in this space, John, you have the big gorilla that everyone's heard of, and there are myriad offshoots. How does RxSpark differentiate from all of these players?
Yeah, it's a great question. Why going straight head to head with an industry leader? And the answer is we have a different model. So pharmacy discounts is one element. You have to get the great prices. GoodRx is the competitor that you've touched on. They aggregate 12 PBMs together. They get great pricing. Clearly, we've got better pricing. So the question is why, and then why create a model that would compete with that? Well, we haven't. We've sort of created a different model, and the model comes really from our background. So we get the cheapest pharmacy discounts. We can explain how we do that. But then patients want more than that. They want really good content that relate to the drug and condition. They want to have services that relate. Oh, I'm diabetic. I'm on metformin, therefore I need an A1C test. Oh, I haven't got a prescription. I need a telehealth call. So you put all that together, then you add products that relate to their drug and condition at discounted prices. Helps 60 million uninsured Americans and 60% of Americans who have a high deductible policy. And then if you tap at that in one step further, it's about the user. If the patient is not collecting their drugs, they're not going to get better. It starts with them. If they're not better, they're not going to be great. They're not great in themselves. They're not great in their family and their community. And then it's more other things like products that they need that are too expensive, or it's services. If you look at getting a CAT scan, then it's going to be $1,100, $1,200. But at certain times of the day, it's $500. Therefore, it's doable. Therefore, they get better. And if they get better, they're better in themselves, they're better at work, they're better with their family, and they're better in their community. So it's really simple. It's a very, very changing model that we have.
It's essentially it's a catalyst model towards better health that encompasses a lot of different aspects that most of the quote unquote competition doesn't even begin to touch on. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing to do is to give out a pharmacy discount card, and then from there, make a little bit of money on the PBM side. The hard work is actually understanding the consumer and where they are, and then giving them a range of things that they need, whether it's pharmacy discounts, services, products, or procedures that are massively discounted. Give them what they need to help them get better.
So who would this be meant for here in the States in the biggest sense? I mean, what types of people are going to benefit? You kind of touched on it a little bit there, but let's circle back.
Well, surely the 60 million uninsured Americans, there's your starting point, who really can't afford their meds. So if a drug is $200, that's food on the table for the average American family. So what are you going to do about that? So there's the first group. The second group is the underinsured, people who have a high deductible policy just in case it's a problem. Again, pharmacy can be very expensive in that case. And even if you're fully covered, there are hundreds of drugs that you're now not covered for, that you were covered before, and now you're not covered. So again, it's just worth looking at searching on an RxSpark site and just go put in your zip code, put in the drug, and just see what it's like. You'd be staggered that metformin could be $6 or $77. Lipitor could be $5 or $200, and you don't know that. And it's in your zip code. It's exactly the same generic drug.
So again, a lot of people, it's a matter of education as well.
Yeah.
Now, one of the ways in which you help out with this, as far as I understand it, is you can help a group or association, white or private label or however you want to put it, these platforms, both the RxSpark and the Igniter. We'll get to Igniter here, folks, in just a minute. But when you have a group or association that wants to white or private label, what types of groups does this attract for you? Like, can you give some names out of some folks that you've started to work with?
Yeah, again, we don't really want to go and sell direct because we don't know the consumer. But the partners that we work with do know the consumer. It could be a doctor network. It could be a dental network like the Hispanic Dental Association with access to 50,000 Spanish dentists. They all need help and the patients need help. It could be NASCAR, and we're working with NASCAR, a NASCAR racing team now, and they have access to 70 million users. 23% of the NASCAR fans earn under 25 grand a year. 9% are Hispanic, if it's just a perfect demographic. So rather than me think about I can market a brand like RxSpark to a NASCAR follower, let the racing team do that. They've got the touch, they know, and they want to help those consumers get healthier.
Right. I was going to say it's a nice adjunct. Now, we talked about RxSpark a little bit here, or a pretty good bit here. There's one other element to this that we want to make sure we touch on, and we're going to get there next, is there's an element you put in called Igniter. First of all, I'd like you to explain what Igniter is and then talk about what that does for your distribution and how you outreach to all these different groups.
You know, with all things, everything evolves. If you look at account aggregation, it started with helping a financial advisor get the information about their consumers, and it morphed into banking, it morphed into Yahoo Money. We're talking to the community pharmacies that do a great job in the community, but need help, whether it's websites or it's more revenue to help them compete with the big box retailers. And so we created a brand called myrxspark.com to help them. But in real terms, they need something different. They need to have their own website, and they need to have their own posters and their own cards and their own information. And you don't really want to go and build 22,000 websites. So we built one website. So if you conceptually think about a website being linear, then that's one way of looking at a website. But if you curve it and bend it and then put 22,000 versions underneath that, then you can handle this capability. So that's what Igniter does, is it sort of takes a website and builds unique versions underneath it. So with RxSpark, there's actually 22,000 versions of RxSpark, one for every community pharmacy. The community pharmacy, 60% of community pharmacies don't have a website. So we give them a website. We promote them at a local zip code level. We give them posters and cards for their patients to earn money from on the revenue side on pharmacy services and products. But also they can get out in their community to churches and schools and community centers and laundromats to be able to go and push that out, and that drives in. And that's what Igniter does. And since then, it's just exploded. So it doesn't matter what brand it is, whether it's RxSpark or it could be Mejor Rx, which is the Spanish version for the Hispanic Dental Association. We can build 50,000 sites for them, all with their own individual sites, with their own posters and their own cards and their own web listing and their own promotion. The same with clinics, the same with other dental organizations, any chiropractors is another good example. All of those, exactly the same thing.
This would work for primary care, for family medicine, for podiatry, dermatology, any specialty here in the US?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a case of just helping the doctor help the patient. So the patient then can find the doctor and go to the doctor's office. They can go and get the pharmacy discount cards and get help at that stage. It's just helping, bringing the help right down to the consumer, but also helping the doctor and the dentist and the chiropractor and so forth.
So let's talk about what types of things are available through the platform. You've already touched on the marketing side of things, the outreach side of things, the fact that they'll have a website, the fact they'll have posters and cards and things like that to go out to the community through their members, get the word of mouth running. But what types of things are featured on the Igniter platform? We talked earlier about essential medical supplies, durable medical equipment. For folks that don't understand those terms, John, let's explain those and let's walk through what that means.
Yeah, well, it starts with the cheapest pharmacy platform in the US. So you've got the place to go and find your pharmacy. But while you're looking at pharmacy, the average American spends $1,500 a year on products that relate to their drug and condition. It could be over the counter, OTC. It could be DME, durable medical equipment. It could be nutraceuticals, or it could be vitamins. All those things are sold at the big box retailers and so forth. And we can bring it into the site at the point of care with the products and services they need at discounted prices.
Brilliant. And now we've kind of covered this a couple different ways, but I want to ask the question to see if there's anything else we want to try to dive in on. Is because this show is about being unique, standing out that way, how have you positioned RxSpark to capture market share from the bigger players? The 800-pound gorilla called GoodRx that owns a large chunk of the market, even the folks that have discount programs. Everybody's familiar with Mark Cuban's pharmacy discount program. How have you positioned to be able to, again, I mean, you've kind of covered this, but let's go through it again and see if there's anything we missed.
Well, first of all, GoodRx are a great company. There's no question about it. They've got great brand awareness and they offer great prices. You have to be better than them to compete. So there's the first starting point. Secondly, we don't really sell direct to consumer. We don't want to. We'd rather work with partners who know their users and their patients, whether it's a doctor network, a dental network, it could be NASCAR, it could be any partnership. And they have the relationship with the pharmacy, they have the relationship with the patient, and they benefit the patient. So it's a really good branding thing, that them being helpful to their users.
I'm gonna say now they might not see the member of their association as a patient. It's a new way to look at it for them in a lot of cases. Now the chiropractors might, but the long haul truckers of America may not, or the NASCAR folks may not. So it's another way for associations to start to think uniquely as well about how they're positioning things that are of benefit. Because most associations, John, I think you'll agree with this. I know we've certainly found this. They're tasked with a few things. If there are membership fees, to increase revenue, and increase revenue regardless, but increase membership, increase value to the members, all are pretty key elements of any charge that they have. So what you're doing is actually adding in a value add that allows them to do pretty much all of those things all at once.
Yeah, and there's no cost. Once you've built the website and the apps, there's no cost or running cost to go and put thousands and thousands of members on there to give them a benefit. And once they've joined, the users get rewards. They get rewarded for good behavior, like getting their drugs and buying their products that they need. And they get rewarded for telling their friends, and when their friends buy as well. So there's a reward program to help them as well. So it's a financial benefit to the consumers, but also really helping the users of the Trucking Association, or it's the helping of the Veterans Association or the chiropractors. So getting help right down to the need.
Right. And the other thing that I think is pretty unique is you have an ability to integrate very directly the process right into a sign-up process. So somebody's signing up for an association, you have the ability to work with that group in almost every case to integrate so that they're immediately a part of the private labeled RxSpark. Talk about that a little bit, if you would, please.
Well, it's a little bit perverse, really. So you start thinking, I've got 1 million users, and you send an email out, you've got a 2% open rate and a 2% click-through rate. So you have to send a lot of emails out to go and get to those users. Whereas really, anyone can benefit from saving 90% discount at 62,000 pharmacies as a thank you. So at the point of registration, or a point that the company's going to the site, you give them the access to this site that's free to them. And it's a massive benefit to them. and then it just takes over. So now you're actually capturing 2% of 2% of a million users, which is actually about 400 users. You actually capture the million users that you want, and that's a benefit to the organization and the benefit to the users.
The one other thing that I want to make sure is very clear for anybody that's part of an association, running an association, wanting to talk about this kind of thing, there is a financial benefit to them for running it as well. The association actually benefits financially as well, correct?
Yeah, so instead of, again, very logically, instead of me spending money on pay-per-click campaigns and social media and advertising out to get the users, we get the partners to do that, and therefore why shouldn't they share in the profits that we make? So every profit that we make, whether it's from a user or a friend on pharmacy, mail order, services or products, we share on a recurring revenue basis with our partners that are marketing that out.
Let's circle back one more time onto the marketing that you do for the doctors. There's the website, there's the collateral, which could be posters, could be cards, things like that. There's also local SEO for that practice. How have you seen that affect the groups that you're already working with? How has that worked well for them?
Well, the first thing is what we don't say this is what our marketing is. We actually sit down and listen to how they market to their consumers. It could be with blogs, it could be with posts, it could be with emails, it could be with advertising, it could be with videos. And so when we understand how they communicate with their users, then we will behind the scenes create posters and cards or adverts or social media posts or videos or webinars to help them and give them that so they can then go and distribute it. Because again, we're the voice that understands our part of the business. If they understand their business and their consumers, then the two come together in a really simple strategy.
I was going to say a tremendously synergistic way too, which is beautiful. So we've covered an awful lot here, but I want to talk about what's on the horizon. Where you've mentioned how much everything's just exploded, and I've seen this from afar. Watched you all of a sudden have more and more and more and more opportunity in front of you and realized potential in front of you. What's next? Where does this head?
Well, first of all, it's about users. So the more partners we have who have users, they come into the network. And again, what we have to do is be very, very careful with that network. What we don't want to do is have companies coming in just to sell products and services to the consumer that have really no benefit. So we're the gatekeeper to the data, to the users. So if a good product is there available, a good example of that is a company called Aphora, Aphora. They offer an American hospital with American doctors in Costa Rica at massively discounted prices. We're working with another company that allows doctors to put cash prices on for a service like a CAT scan, like we talked about. Instead of $1,200, it could be $500. All those things are really good. So we're gatekeepers into the consumers to make sure it's a really good value and correct in respect to the product side available to the consumers. That's where it's going to go to.
So the things that end up on Igniter could be from one of these folks that's signing up, but it's going to have to be a qualified product or a qualified offering service, that type of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Something that's just wanting to quickly get into a lot of user bases, that's not of interest to us. It has to have massive value to the consumer to make sure it's life-changing for them.
Right, exactly. That makes all the sense in the world. And I love the fact that you are, as you said, sort of playing gatekeeper to this, because there are a lot of folks that would use this just to blast everything in the world out through the platform, given that access. And I'm glad you're not giving that. It also makes you unique. So you've covered an awful lot of things that help you stand out in a crowded marketplace. Wanted to kind of circle back. One last question is, as folks are out there, let's walk through what the user experience is like and talk a little bit about how someone is, what does someone need to know in order to be able to use RxSpark and Igniter?
So it depends on the partner. So if the partner's called Quix RX, Quix RX is the brand for NASCAR, then because they go Quix, from maybe it's an American term. It's not in the English Oxford Dictionary, I can tell you. So again, they would market out to their consumers. The consumer goes to Quicks RX in Spanish or English. That's the right spelling. And then from there, they would then quickly put in the drug that they need, metformin or Lipitor. It auto fills for them, finds them in the right zip code, and shows them the cheapest price.
So in other words, it's basic, it's simple, it's straightforward, and it's easy.
Yeah. Well, it has to be because I can use it. So
Fair enough, John. Fair enough. How would someone get in contact with you if they wanted to talk about either an association and getting this out to their user base and their patients, as it were, or somebody wanted to talk to you about something they have that's life-changing to add potentially to the platform, any number of those things? How do they get in touch with you best, John?
just email is the best thing. John, JOHN at RxSpark, RxSpark.com.
We'll make sure we get that up on the screen for you. John, I really want to thank you very much for taking the time today because I know you're busy as can be with all the new things that are happening. So thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. John. This is Andy Grider, and I am very, very happy to have had yet another great guest here. If you know someone who runs an association, if you know someone who is looking for something unique, powerful, and different to provide for their member base, this isn't simply a discount. This isn't simply a card you hand them that says, hey, take a chance, go to the pharmacy, figure it out. This is actually all the educational tools that come with it. There's so much more here that John will get into when he gets a meeting with you. I'm happy to make the introduction myself if you come through me. If you choose to directly reach out to John, just let him know you found him on Unique this week, if you would, please. And we are more than happy to, like I said, facilitate any introductions. Please pass this around to folks you know. If you know somebody that just got elected president of an association, again, want a powerful tool, know somebody that runs HR benefits at a company, know someone who does a lot of work with communities and individuals, whether it's Hispanic, whether it's the underinsured, the uninsured, any number of folks there, all very, very high-end categories for what John has delivered here. And again, I mean, as examples, NASCAR, long-haul truckers, the pharmacists of the United States. So there's a whole lot of pharmacies that are involved now. So take the time, pass this along, check out the other shows on the channel, and thank you so much for listening in. We'll catch you with the next episode in another week.